So this problem is similar to the river problem, but it involves an airplane with wind and they're called air currents. So if you have a plane, okay, well, I have to make it look like the front of the plane. So here's the tail, and then that's the cockpit where the, okay, that's my airplane. Okay, so if the wind is blowing this way, the wind is blowing that way, then that's a tailwind. And so it's helping to push the plane along. So if the plane in still air, so this is the plane, in still air is going p miles per hour, and the air current, so this is the wind, if it's a tailwind, okay, so there's the wind. If it's a tailwind, then you're going to have the rate of the plane plus the tailwind, okay, because the wind is helping to make the plane go faster. If it's a headwind, so if you have this airplane, so we need to take some art classes, but the wind is blowing at it, it's called a headwind, and that's going to slow the plane down. So you take the plane minus the wind, okay? So tailwind, it's pushing on the tail, it's making the plane go faster. Headwind, it's pushing back against the plane, against the head of the plane, and so it's going to slow the plane down. All right. So a small jet can fly 1,325 miles an hour, or 25 miles in 5 hours with a tailwind, but only 1,035 miles in 5 hours into a headwind. Find the speed of the jet in still air and the speed of the wind. Okay, and I'm going to call it a plane, so instead of a jet, just so I can keep my variables the same. So the plane and the wind. I'm going to set up a chart, just like we did on the river problem. And I'm going to put rate times time equals distance. And then there's going to be a tail wind, and there's going to be a head wind. Okay, so based on what we know before, we've got the plane and the wind. We know with a tailwind, it's P plus the wind, and with a headwind, it's P minus the wind. Okay, now it says the jet can fly 1,325 miles, so that's the distance, 1,325 miles, and the time was 5 hours. 5 hours. Okay. Now from there we can write an equation. We can say P plus W times 5 equals 1,325. All right, now let's go to the other case. It can only fly 1,000, so that's going to be the distance, 1,035 miles, 1,035 miles. The time is the same time, in 5 hours into a headwind. Okay, so here comes that equation. P minus W times 5 equals 1,035. Now, I said I'd show you a little trick on this problem. We kind of did it on the last one. But instead of distributing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 5 and get my numbers smaller, and I'm going to get that 5 out of the way. And so I'm going to get a new green equation. You're allowed to do this. You can divide both sides by any number, as long as you get to both sides and it's not 0. All right, so we're dividing by 5, and we get P plus W equals 265. I think that's what I get. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other equation. I'm going to divide both sides by 5. I have to switch colors. 5 divided by 5. Those cancel out. And then I'm going to get, for my blue equation, P minus W equals 207. I think that's what I get. Okay, now those equations are very friendly because they're all set up. They're going to eliminate if I just add them together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that's why I like that little trick. It doesn't always work. Sometimes you get some goofy numbers, but if it works nicely without fractions, I would go ahead and just do that. All right, so P plus P is 2P. W minus W out. And then what do I get here? I got to add them together. 12, 7, 4, 472. Okay, divide both sides by 2. And so P is 236. So what that means is the plane is traveling at 236 miles an hour. So the plane, or the jet plane, how's that? The jet plane, its rate is 236 miles per hour in still air. I should have put in still air because that's just on its own with no wind. Now, how can you figure out the speed of the wind? Well, you could take this green equation right here. That'll be a nice friendly one. P plus W equals 265. And then go ahead and put in the rate of the plane, 236 plus W equals 265. Subtract the 236. And what do we get? The wind is 29 miles an hour. So I can forget. All right, so the wind, then I want to look and see what the question said, that 29 miles per hour. I think it just says what's the rate of the wind or something like that. What's the speed of the wind? Yeah. Okay, so we answered the question, said find the speed of the jet in still air, find the speed of the wind, and we did it. Now, a little check here. If you add those together, then you get that 265 that we were talking about. But what if you subtract? If I subtract the plane speed minus the wind, do I get 207? And I do. So, all right. So those are pretty fun problems. They do take a little bit of work to get used to, and that little trick without the distributing can help you a little bit. It gets the numbers smaller. So a lot of times it works out nice that way. All right, well, good luck with these and practice them.